In this lesson, we're going to learn the algorithm for dividing fractions with using the method KFC. KFC stands for keep, flip, and change. The method for keep, flip, change means I'm going to look at my first fraction, 1/2. 1/2 is what I have, so I am going to keep 1/2 the same. Flip means when I look at my second fraction, I'm going to flip the numerator and the denominator. This is called the reciprocal, and it basically is the opposite or the inverse of 2/3. So if I flip 2/3, I now have 3 on the top and 2 is on the bottom. Since I have flipped my fraction, I'm using the reciprocal. The last thing I'm going to do is change this division operation. So since I changed my fraction, the opposite of division is multiplication. So keep, flip, change means keep the first fraction, flip the second, and then change the division sign to a multiplication sign. Now I'm going to solve this just like I would if it were a multiplication problem. And when I multiply across the top, 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 2 is 4. So my answer to 1/2 divided by 2/3 is 3/4. Now let's try 2/5 divided by 3/4. Once again, I'm going to keep my first fraction 2/5 because that's what I have, and what I have isn't going to change. Now I'm going to look at the second fraction. The second fraction is 3/4. I'm going to flip it, so now 4 is on the top and 3 is on the bottom. And my last step is change the division sign. The opposite of division is multiplication. And now I'll multiply across like normal. 2 times 4 is 8, and 5 times 3 is 15. And 8/15 cannot be simplified. So 2/5 divided by 3/4 equals 8/15. Now let's try 1/6 divided by 1/5. And I'm going to use my KFC method. So K means keep the first fraction. Keep it 1/6. Flip the second fraction. So it was 1/5, now it's going to be 5/1. And the last thing I do is change my division sign. So the opposite of division is multiplication. Now I'm going to multiply across. 1 times 5 is 5. 6 times 1 is 6. So my answer to 1/6 divided by 1/5 is 5/6. Now let's try the same method with a whole number. I'm still going to use KFC. So the first number in this problem is 12, so I'm going to keep 12. The second fraction is 1/4, and I'm going to flip it to 4/1. And the last thing I'm going to do is change this division sign to a multiplication sign. Now I have 12 times 4/1, and I know that 4/1 is the same as just the whole number 4. So I could write it as 4, or if I wanted to make both of these a fraction, I would put 1 under both of my whole numbers. 12 times 4 is 48/1, and so I would simply write that as 48. Now, in this case, 12 divided by 1/4 turned into 48, which is a larger number. The way this works is I can model, and I'm going to start by drawing the number of objects I have. So if I erase my scratch work, I start by looking at my whole number. My whole number says that I have 12 objects. So I'm going to draw 12 objects. So I've now represented 12. Now when I look at my second fraction, I'm going to look at the denominator. And the denominator says each of these objects needs to be cut into fourths. So if I take all 12 objects and cut them into fourths, so I've now represented the 4. There are my fourths. The last step I need to do is look at my numerator, 1. So how many 1/4 are in 12 objects? Well, this piece is 1/4, and there's a second 1/4, a third 1/4, a fourth 1/4. So I'm going to go through and count every time I have a fourth. And my answer should tell me how many 1/4 are in 12 objects. $28, 32, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, which is where I get my answer. So if I took 12 objects and cut all of the objects into fourths, how many single 1/4 would I count? There would be 48. Let's try one more example with a whole number. Once again, I'm going to keep the first number as 6. I'm going to flip 1/2 instead of 1/2. It is now 2/1. And I'm going to change division to multiplication. And 6 is a whole number, so I can put a 1 under it if I want to. 6 times 2 is 12/1, which is just 12. So 6 divided into halves is equal to 12. Now I can show this with a model. Once again, I'm going to start by looking at my whole number. How many objects are there? Well, there are 6. So I'm going to draw 6 circles. The denominator says how many pieces I need to break each object into. So I'm going to break each of these into halves, into 2 pieces. And then the numerator says count every 1 piece. So there's 1 piece, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces. So when I take 6 objects and break them all into halves, I'm going to have 12 objects instead of 6. Now try these 4 practice problems. Remember to always keep the first number or the first fraction, flip the second fraction upside down, and change the sign from division to multiplication. Remember to still check if your answer can be simplified.